Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we distill complex information into surprising insights just for you. Today we're plunging into the extraordinary life of a man who profoundly shaped not just the global energy landscape, but also, well, the world of Islamic thought and heritage. Imagine someone whose influence stretched from, you know, those high-stakes oil negotiations that captivated the world to pioneering cultural and intellectual foundations that are still impacting scholarship today.
It's truly a remarkable story. Influence across such diverse fields, our deep dive today is into the multifaceted contributions of Ahmed Zaki Yamani. Our main source here is a commemorative book. It's titled Ahmed Zaki Yamani, The Heritage of an Ummah in a Man. Now, for those unfamiliar, Ummah, it refers to the global Muslim community or nation. And that title immediately tells you his impact wasn't just national, it resonated across the broader Islamic world. This book, it's actually a compilation of insights from a symposium held in London back on May 26, 2022. That marked a year after his passing. It was published by the Al-Furqan Islamic Heritage Foundation, which, interestingly, he himself established.
Right. So our mission today is really to uncover the key aspects of Yamani's impactful career, and I guess his immense intellectual legacy, too. We want to reveal how one individual can leave such an indelible mark across fields that seem so different. International politics on one hand, preserving ancient texts on the other. We'll explore his personal character, his significant public roles, and the enduring institutions and ideas he brought to life. It's a truly fascinating story, so let's unpack this and see what key lessons we can draw.
Yeah, absolutely. And to truly appreciate his influence, I think we first need to understand the man himself. Ahmed Zaki Yamani. He was born in Mecca. And his early education really stands out. It was a blend. He received traditional religious schooling alongside modern legal studies, and from top places, Cairo University, Harvard, Exeter. This combination wasn't just academic. It was foundational to his whole approach, his multifaceted approach to challenges. It allowed him to bridge sort of ancient wisdom with modern pragmatism.
That blend is quite unique, isn't it? Deep traditional knowledge with top-tier modern legal training. What was he like personally? The sources seem to paint a fascinating picture.
They do. He was often described as, well, humble, simple, and kind, but underneath that, he possessed this powerful intellect, a really strong will, and keen insight. What's particularly striking is how his diplomatic skills, his ability to persuade were considered legendary. Even when he held immense power under intense global scrutiny, he kept this remarkable composure. Consider his removal from the oil ministry in March 1975. That was a highly public, quite dramatic event. But he handled it with what was described as a silent rebel demeanor,
Yeah.
which I think speaks volumes about his inner strength and conviction.
Silent rebel. That paints quite a vivid picture, doesn't it? Wow. Speaking of his public roles, you mentioned the oil ministry. He really was a titan of global oil policy, wasn't he? How did he fundamentally shift things for Saudi Arabia and OPEC?
Oh, absolutely. He was a titan. His appointment as Saudi Arabia's oil minister in October 1962, that was a pivotal moment, a real turning point. Before him, you see, the global oil landscape was largely controlled by the major international oil companies, the so-called Seven Sisters. Yamani was instrumental, truly instrumental, in transforming OPEC. It went from a sort of nascent forum into a formidable global force. That gave oil-producing nations significantly more control over their own resources. His strategy wasn't just about, demanding higher prices right away. It was a long-term vision. Ownership, sovereignty for the producing countries, that was the goal.
Right, sovereignty. And of course, the 1973 oil embargo looms large, often called the Arab oil weapon. He was right at the helm during that. The pressure must have been incredible. What made his negotiation skills during that period so mythical, as the sources put it?
Well, it wasn't just what he did, but how he did it. His style, it wasn't brute force, not at all. It was about a sophisticated understanding of interdependence. That was key. He recognized that even in conflict, oil producers and consumers were, well, inextricably linked. They needed each other. There's an anecdote from that period during these intense late-night negotiations. He was known for his calm, almost philosophical demeanor. Apparently, he'd often interject with unexpected insights or maybe historical analogies that could just reframe the whole discussion. It diffused tensions, but he still held firm on the core principles. He could somehow balance these really complex, often conflicting interests, both the oil-producing nations and the consuming nations. He showed how their long-term stability was actually connected.
It's clear he was a master of the political and economic stage, a true strategic mind. But his influence wasn't limited to that sphere, was it? He was also this visionary when it came to heritage, building lasting institutions. And that's a huge part of his broader legacy, impacting the world even today.
Indeed, yeah. That's where his legacy truly broadens beyond just politics and economics. It's quite remarkable. So in 1994, Yamani established the Al Furqan Islamic Heritage Foundation in London. This institution, it was born from his profound vision to preserve, document, and publish Islamic heritage globally. He deeply believed in the importance of connecting traditional knowledge with contemporary scholarship, making sure the wisdom of the past stayed accessible, stayed relevant for future generations.
So an entire foundation dedicated to this huge goal. What specific things, what centers or projects did Al Furqan launch under his guidance that really embody that vision?
Well, there were several pioneering centers and projects. Each one was pretty crucial to his vision. One of the three main pillars of Al Furqan is the Center for the Study of Islamic Manuscripts. It's dedicated to collecting, preserving, and publishing Islamic manuscripts from all over the world. Just imagine the historical treasures they're safeguarding. It's incredible. He also established the Center for the Study of the History of Makkah and Medina. That was in Mecca in 1994. And this center initiated the monumental Makkah al-Mukarrama and Medina al-Munawwara Encyclopedia. It's this multi-volume project meticulously documenting the history, the culture, the economic aspects of the two holy cities, a truly comprehensive historical record.
Wow, that sounds like an enormous undertaking, a massive effort to preserve such vital historical information. And he didn't stop there, did he? He kept going.
No, he certainly didn't. In 2005, he founded the Center for the Study of Maqasid al-Sharia, also in London. This center focused on the higher objectives, the maqasid of Islamic law. The goal was to apply them to contemporary challenges, offer relevant solutions for today's world. And under his guidance, Al Furqan published over 350 volumes, more than 200 titles. That's significantly contributed to the accessibility of Islamic knowledge worldwide. That's a staggering amount of scholarship just made available.
Beyond these big institutions and their publications, were there other tangible impacts, maybe from his philanthropic work, things that show his dedication in a more sort of personal way?
Absolutely. Yeah, his philanthropy was quite extensive. He established numerous charitable projects, things like Beit al-Quran, the House of the Quran, and the Ahmed Zaki Yamani Hall at Cairo University. He also supported various educational, health, and disaster relief initiatives globally, so a very broad reach. But a particularly notable and deeply personal endeavor was the House of Khadija project. He personally initiated archaeological work. This was back in late 1989, October to December. The aim was to excavate and identify the precise location of the house of Khadija bint Khuwailid, Prophet Muhammad's first wife, in Mecca. This resulted in a scholarly book published in both Arabic and English.
Wow, that's incredibly specific and deeply personal, as you say. It shows his commitment to heritage on a really granular level. It goes beyond just institutional support to something almost archaeological. And it seems like it's precisely this foundational understanding of history and tradition that empowered his incredibly forward-thinking intellectual contributions, wasn't it?
Precisely. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. His intellectual core really revolved around what's known as Maqasid al-Sharia, the higher objectives of Islamic law. He didn't just understand these principles. He saw them as a dynamic lens, a way to engage with modern challenges. He advocated for a broad, universal understanding of these principles, emphasizing their relevance for all humanity, not just within specific sectarian interpretations. He believed that critical thinking and renewed ijtihad, that's independent reasoning in Islamic law, were absolutely essential to address modern issues, and he actively encouraged dialogue across different schools of thought within Islam and even with Judaism and Christianity, always seeking common ground.
That sounds like a very progressive approach, really pushing for intellectual renewal. Did he challenge other traditional views as well, maybe on more sensitive social issues? I think I recall something about his stance on women in Islam.
He certainly did, yes. Through his book, Islam and Woman, which came out in 2004, then translated to English in 2005. In it, he advocated forcefully for women's full rights, grounding his arguments in Quranic teachings and the Prophet's Sunnah, the Prophet's practices. He specifically challenged certain traditional interpretations that he viewed as, well, cultural rather than strictly religious commands. For example, he argued against the obligatory nature of the niqab, the face veil. He saw it as more of a cultural practice, not a divine command. Now, this was a very forward-thinking perspective, for some quite controversial at the time, but it stemmed directly from his maqasid-based approach, his focus on the higher objectives.
That's a powerful example, isn't it? Applying his intellectual framework to contemporary social debates. And he also championed integrating modern science into religious practice, didn't he?
He was a strong advocate for that, yes. A prime example is his stance on determining the start of Ramadan, the holy month. He argued forcefully for using scientific calculation for sighting the crescent moon, advocating for a unified, scientifically based approach for the whole Muslim world, rather than relying solely on, traditional visual observation, which can vary by location. Now, for many, this might seem like a small detail, but in the context of Islamic practice, what this particular stance tells us is his profound commitment. A commitment to bringing traditional practices with modern scientific understanding, aiming for unity and precision for the Muslim world.
Right. This truly paints a picture of a man who was constantly seeking to evolve, to adapt thought for the modern world, looking for common ground, practical solutions. Beyond religious practice, what about his broader political and strategic thinking? How did he view global events?
Well, his thinking consistently sought to understand global events and, importantly, resolve conflicts. He always emphasized balanced engagement with political and economic realities, not just one or the other. And he held a deep, enduring sympathy for the Palestinian cause. That reflected his commitment to justice and human welfare on a broader scale. This deep empathy, combined with his strategic acumen, it informed his unique approach to international relations. He is always aiming for a long-term, balanced solution, not just short-term wins.
So, Ahmed Zaki Yamani's life. It concluded in London on February 22, 2021. He was buried in Mecca near the tomb of Khadija, which feels fitting somehow. His life truly seemed to embody that phrase, the heritage of an ummah in a man. From the diplomatic complexities of global oil to the painstaking work of preserving Islamic manuscripts and then reevaluating religious thought, his impact was just profound and incredibly far-reaching. He was a leader who synthesized diverse knowledge, championed intellectual renewal, and demonstrated how principles could be applied to complex real-world challenges.
Absolutely. And I think you've now seen how one individual, really through sheer intellect, conviction, and that strategic vision, can leave a legacy that not only shapes nations, but also bridges cultural and intellectual divides, leaving behind institutions and ideas that continue to thrive today.
Right. As I'm thinking about today, in a world increasingly defined by rapid information and, frankly, complex global challenges, what lessons can we draw from Ahmed Zaki Yamani's life? Especially about balancing tradition with innovation. How might his integrated approach, moving from ancient texts to global oil strategy, from personal heritage projects to challenging religious norms, how might that inspire us? How can it help us tackle the pressing issues of our own time? Something to really chew on after this deep dive.